Welcome to Client Dynamics. In today's call, we're going to be going over a beginner's training, taking you through how to add a contact and a policy, as well as some rough directions on how to make your way through the system. Since we reset our password, let's go ahead and change it to something that we'll remember. You can do so by clicking on the blue circle in the top right-hand corner and going to your profile. Your profile has different fields that you can complete yourself. However, we're mainly focused on the password and re-entering the password right here. Having any issues with the system or have some questions that we can help with? Go ahead and click the question mark in the top right-hand corner and submit a ticket. You also have the option of placing a phone call or chatting with us. Now let's talk about how we can teach ourselves. If you take a look in the top left corner, there's a guided tour button. You'll find one of these in every section of Client Dynamics. It'll teach you a little bit about what you can interact with and what it does. Finally, make sure you check out our training section where you can invite yourself to webinars or check out videos or click-by-click guides. Before we begin discussing contacts, how to edit them and review them, we should probably discuss the 4 squares in the top right corner. Inside of the Quick Tools area, you can manage your contacts and custom fields, do some light agency management, and even set up integrations. You'll probably find that you may at some point need a little bit more advanced customization options for your agency, and if that's the case, you'll want to look over on the left-hand side under Agency Settings. The first place where you will go to review any sort of contact information in the system is going to be this main dashboard on the home page. By default, the dashboard is going to show you tasks, expired and expiring policies, as well as messages in the system. Now, if you'd like to customize this area with an additional section of information or maybe a report you've created, go ahead and click on the Create Dashboard button. If you need more direction on this, please feel free to reach out to our support team or check out the training section. Now let's discuss how to look up an existing contact in the system. For this, you have 2 options. The first is the top left corner. You'll see a magnifying glass that you can find in any section of Client Dynamics. The other way is to go over to the Contact section on the left-hand side. And once you're inside the Contact section, you'll find it has its own search bar. I would also like to point out that regardless of the method you use to look up a contact, we'll always display a little bit of information. In the Contact section, you'll see it in the table below. But when you use the magnifying glass, it'll actually display some information just below. You can also press Enter on your keyboard to view this in a little bit more expanded format. Now let's discuss how to create a new contact. To do so, go to the 4 squares in the top right-hand corner and click New Contact. As you can see when this window pops up, it gives you several fields to fill out, anything from the applicant's info to co-applicant and custom fields. Make sure you fill it out as thoroughly as possible. When you're happy with your submission, go ahead and click Add Contact at the bottom. Once we look up a contact, we'll be taken to the main page that looks like this. You'll see some basic information about our contact in the top left corner, as well as a tab for invoices and proposals. If you'd like to link your contact to another contact in the system, use this tab here. Let's go over the options in the top right corner. If you want to review details about anything you see in this contact card, or generate Accord forms, go on over to Details. Sticky Note will leave a sticky note like this one that you can move around, which will be seen by other users. Note will add a note to the Notes section. Policy will add a policy. If you want to look at a QuoteRUSH lead or send a lead to the virtual bot, you can use these buttons here. Or if you're looking to generate a proposal, click the Generate Proposal button. Keep in mind, in order to make use of this feature, you do need QuoteRUSH enabled and to have run quotes for this particular contact. Now let's discuss the area where you can review any messages or notes associated with your contact. First, let's say you want to see a little bit more. You can go ahead and click this little icon in the top right corner to expand this area across the entire width of the browser. While this feature is undoubtedly handy if you have a lot of information in your contact, for now it's not necessary as this is a pretty basic contact, so we'll go ahead and restore the page and move on. Now let's discuss the notes, or the quick notes section, which is the default section that will appear right here in the right-hand corner. First thing you should notice is the section that says quick note is editable. This is where you type the notes to be saved later. When you're ready, you can either highlight the text with this button, or you can click plus quick note to add it down below, and you can scroll downward to see any notes that have already been created. Now let's go over the task section. In this section, you'll see a little plus sign at the top, next to where it says Add Quick Task. You can do that to populate this area, or you can do so over in the Tasks section of Client Dynamics, here on the left-hand side. Also, make sure that you pay attention to the Actions section on the right-hand side, where you can view timeline for the task, view and edit the content of the task, edit the status, subject, or the timeline of the task, add a subtask, or dismiss this task. And before we move on to the next section, I want to point out the bell icon in the top right-hand corner. This will display any tasks that are assigned to you. Now we can discuss the call log. The calls section functions as a call log. It shows any inbound and outbound phone calls sent or received by the VoIP phone that is connected to the system. Next, we're going to go over the email section. Before we do, I'm going to expand this so it's a little bit easier to read, and again, you can do that by clicking in the top right corner. Now that we can see this a little bit better, I wanted to point out a few things. First off, you can enter your email credentials right here in this area, or if you'd like them to pre-fill by default, you can always scroll to the top of your screen and go to your profile in the top right corner where you can fill that out as the default. Once you get a little bit lower down, you're going to notice there's an area where you can either select a template or opt to type your own message. Once you've created messages and you've sent them out, you'll actually see all of your messages down here at the bottom. Now let's discuss the messages section. Since we're already familiar with emails, this should look pretty familiar. At the top of this section, if you have a file that you would like to attach to your SMS message, use this dropdown. Otherwise, you get to choose if you'd like to attach a specific template that you've already made, or type a custom message. From there, you choose if you want to send to the applicant, the co-applicant, or both. And then, when you're ready to review messages, you've got a section for unread, for read, and for all messages. The final item that we're going to cover in this area is the history of changes. Inside of here, you can review any updates to the details about your contact or uploads like policies or files that have been uploaded to this contact card. If you're looking for a more general list of all changes that have happened in the system recently, you can always look at the history of changes up here in the top right corner next to your profile. That should have us covered for the contact card section of Client Dynamics. Now we can go over details for a contact. You may have noticed there's a particular lack of detail about your contact on this first card whenever you're looking at it. So now, let's discuss what you'll see whenever you click on Contact Details. This area right here is going to give you some more detail about the contact information and how to classify your contact in general. You'll also notice there's a custom field section down here, so if there's something in particular that you'd like to track and you don't see it in here, feel free to click on the 4 squares in the top right corner of the system, and you can add a custom field there. I'd also like you to notice the 3 buttons on the top right that will allow you to edit, hide, or delete a contact from the system. Don't worry if you delete something, you can always restore it later in the Contact section of Client Dynamics. Now let's talk about the different navigation you'll see when you're looking at the details of a contact. First, in Client Info, you'll see the area that we're looking at right now, titled Contact Info. There's also Linked Contact, which will show you any other contacts that you've already linked to this one, or give you the ability to add a relationship. The final is QuoteRUSH Info. This should match any information that's already saved in QuoteRUSH. If quotes have already been completed for this lead in the QuoteRUSH system, you can actually review the home, auto, and flood quotes right here in these tabs. I'm going to quickly open the Policies, Communication, and Activity menus just so you can review and realize all of these sections were actually covered a little bit ago when we were looking at the main contact card. This is another way to go back and review those sections in a little bit of an expanded format. The final thing that we should talk about in this area is your ability to generate accord forms. All you need to do is select the form that you would like, and then choose if you would like to use the information stored within QuoteRUSH or the information stored within Client Dynamics, and it'll generate your accord form below. This is great for reaching surplus lines. If you have any questions about finding specific contact details within the system, please feel free to reach out to support. Now that we've finished talking about contact details, let's take a moment to discuss policies. You'll notice there's an entire section on the left-hand side if you'd like to review all of the policies in the system, but for right now, let's look at the ones here on the main contact card. On the main contact card, you'll notice a plus policy button. This will allow you to add a policy into the contact. If you look a little further down, there's an area for both the policies as well as any attachments that you'd like to add to the contact or a specific policy. Before we discuss adding a policy to your contact, I'd like to quickly remind you that if you'd like a more expanded version to review your policies, you can always find that over in the contact details, right here. Otherwise, let's go ahead and click on the plus policy button and see what happens. This is a blank policy. At first, you'll notice there are only a handful of fields, and if you're curious which ones are mandatory, just click the submit button at the bottom like this. You'll notice when you select a new type of policy, this will greatly expand this entire section. And when you get to the bottom of each form, depending on the type of policy that you've selected, you can associate properties or vehicles and drivers to the policy that you're creating. Notice that some will be pre-filled if you've already added some policies to this contact. However, if you want to add a new one, there's a button right here. The other thing that you'll notice is these questions will change depending on the line of business that you select. So make sure that you always answer this question. Let's head back to the contact card so we can review attachments and how you can attach them to either the contact or policies. As you move down the page, pay special attention to the policy info area because just like the contact details, it contains tabs with deleted policies, policy notes, as well as properties, drivers, and vehicles associated with this contact and any policies that have been added. Our final topic today is the attachment system, which is located at the bottom of your contact card. As you can see, there are already attachments in this particular contact, but you can add something by clicking at the top. Notice there's a button on the right that will allow you to add a folder, and any folders that you've added will show up on the left-hand side. If you've navigated inside of a folder and you want to go back, just click the home icon. Another area that's pretty easy to miss is on the right-hand side under the Actions column. You can delete, rename, or move a file. I'd also like to point out that there's a label option here, and you'll see a description and a category associated with each attachment. All three of these can be managed under the Quick Tools if you have the proper permissions. Last but not least, take a look at the Policy Files section. You can always review any attachments that were assigned to a specific policy by navigating to the Policy Files tab at the top, and then utilizing the drop-down menu that lists all the policies associated. Once you're within there, you can use the typical navigation system and new folder system to classify and organize any attachments. That should have us covered for the basic training of client dynamics. Of course, if you have any questions about dashboards, contacts, policies, or attachments, or anything else for that matter, check out our training section or use the information on the screen now to reach out to support. I'd like to thank you for your time and happy quoting!